For those of you that we've not met before, my name is Gabriel Kihana. I'm originally from Rwanda, and I'm currently a postdoctoral fellow at UT Southwestern Medical Center. And I'm also the president and co-founder of AfriSNet. So I have a bachelor degree in biochemistry and molecular biology from California Baptist University, and a PhD in cell biology from Indiana University. And as I said, I'm now a postdoc at UT Southwestern Medical Center. I like to share this, not to brag, but to encourage you. It's kind of a way of saying I've done it, you can also do it, right? So now I'm doing research in cancer cell biology, and I've run multiple sessions like this one through AfriSNet, and I've mentored multiple students, African students who are trying to get into graduate school. And for AfriSNet, really our passion is you. We want to help the African students. We want to see as many of you as possible participating to competent research at the best institutions you can get yourself into in the world. We focus on the United States for obvious reasons. The US remains a global leader in academic research or even private research. And for those of you who attended the last presentation, I made a case for that. I provided specific examples. And where we can, we also help students actually gain hands-on research experience in the United States. This year we'll be able to recruit 7 students. In fact, we have 2 students joining us today who are in North Carolina, Emmanuel and Godwin. They are from Ghana. It's a pleasure to have you, Emmanuel and Godwin, today. And so we do this series to provide you with general information, but also to sort of share our advice based on the experiences we've had mentoring African students since 2018. And so a quick reminder here, if you have not already registered at the AfriSNet website, you please do so. That's the website. And if you go to the Join AfriSNet menu, you will be able to create an account. This makes sure that we have you on our mailing list. And so you will then remain informed of any AfriSNet events in the future, but also this website allows you to actually connect with other people. You can friend people on the website, you can message them directly. And even if, for instance, you're not connected with them on LinkedIn or you don't have their email address, you can message them directly through the AfriSNet website. So it's a great tool to have. And I talked about the AfriSNet programs last time. Today, I want to emphasize 2 of them. One of them is the GRAM, the Graduate Application Mentorship, which I'm going to talk about in detail at our next webinar, and also the AfriSNet graduate and postdoc community. So if you are a postbac, meaning if you have your bachelor degree and you're thinking about graduate school, or if you're a master's student who is thinking about applying to PhD programs, the AGPC is for you. You can join. If you are an undergrad, AGPC is not for you, but we are very soon going to launch a program for that's going to include the undergrads as well. But all the programs we do are relevant to undergrads, like this webinar. So even if you're not part of AGPC as an undergrad, you're still benefiting a lot from all the things that AfriSNet has to offer. And you can always register for AGPC events that interest you, even if you're not a member of the AGPC. Great. So today I want to talk about the graduate school application process in detail. Again, I'll focus on the United States. But what I hope here is to really get into as many details as I can about the preparing and submitting an application to graduate school. And so I'll cover the requirements, the documents you need, and then I actually want to spend more time on how to write those documents, and I'll provide detailed guidelines, and I'll also share some websites that you can visit later to see some templates. I realized I wouldn't have time to go through templates today, but I'll provide a detailed guidance and then give you the websites for the more templates if you need them. Okay. And so always, we're going to have time for discussion and questions. If I don't have time to go through all the questions, you can always shoot me an email. My email's gabrielgihana@afrisnet.org. You can also reach out to the main email, which is info@afrisnet.org. As you join the meeting, please mute yourself. Samaya, can you mute Oscar? Thank you. Perfect. Okay. So also, as I mentioned, the recording for GIS1 is available on the AfrisNet's YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search AfrisNet. You'll find it. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. We don't post a lot of things on YouTube, but for instance, there are some webinars that the AGPC prepares that you may not necessarily attend, but if we post those, then you get notified if you subscribe. Okay. All right. So let's keep going here. So as I mentioned, in my presentation, I'm going to focus on the United States, but keep in mind that what I present here is actually relevant to many programs in Europe, in Asia, and in Australia, and in Africa as well. And in fact, even the academic calendar is aligned in many countries in those places. And so it's important to know the academic year if you're planning to apply to grad school in the United States. So typically, universities, most of them, especially major research universities, follow a semester system. And so there's 2 terms in the year. There's the fall semester that starts usually in late August and goes until December, right before Christmas. And then there's a spring semester that usually starts in January and goes until May or June. So right now, most universities just concluded the spring semester and now they're in the summer break. In some cases, some schools consider the summer as another semester, but typically graduate students don't take courses during the summer. And if you, especially for PhDs, you would most likely start school in the fall. And so when would you apply? For some of you, this information may seem trivial, but there might be people here who are not even ready to apply yet. They just want to get information or they've never applied before. So I'm going to give very basic information. So you apply the year before. So if you want to start graduate school in the fall of 2025, you would actually submit your application in the fall or the winter this year, so 2024. Okay, and just a reminder that the fall semester will start in August until December, and the spring would start in January and go until May or June. Okay. So the general application timeline, every graduate program has a different deadline, although a lot of them, for some reason, fall on December 1st or November 31st. But most deadlines will be from late November to early February. And then in actually starting, I should say, I wrote here February, but some interviews can be as early as January. So say from January to March, you may be invited for an interview. Typically, after the interview, shortly after the interview, you get notified of the decision. And then in April, I think typically April 15 is the kind of the common deadline where you have to accept or reject or defer your offer or your acceptance offer if you have any. And so what if you've received an offer, you can accept it, which means you're going to matriculate that program, that university. You can defer it. You can say, I thank you, I accept the offer, but I'm not ready for these reasons. I would actually like to begin next year if possible. Most programs will let you do that. This is important because some people will have things that are very important in their lives. Life happens, right? And so you can't apply this year, so you decide you don't want to apply this year, even if you are highly qualified. So you take on another year where you're doing other things that are not necessarily research. And so when you write your applications the next year, you kind of have to justify what you've been doing in the past year. Because you finished graduate school 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, but you're applying now. So people might be curious, what you were doing in that year. But if you have the admission this year, even if you're not ready to start, you can always defer the offer to the next academic year, which is possible in many programs. So how do you find the right university or the right program to apply to? So internet is a good start. Really, use the search engines to find the universities that are good for you, and go to the university websites. That's your first start point to learn about any graduate program. And these universities will tend to have an edu domain, and so it's gonna be harvard.edu, berkeley.edu, indiana.edu, and once you get there, you can navigate to the specific graduate program website, and I'm gonna pull up some examples of these in a minute, okay? But it's important to be savvy and know how to navigate these websites and pull out information. Most importantly, you want to do this early. And so if you are thinking about applying to graduate school this year, you should already be doing this. You should already be checking out websites. And so there's also some common university databases that you can visit. I've given some examples here. This list may not be exhaustive. There's somebody who is loud. Would you please mute yourself? Daniel, could you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So I've given you some examples here, like PhD portal, master portal, topuniversities.com, usnews.com. There might be more that I don't know. So these portals, I like them because they can help you sort of tailor your search. And so if you're looking for PhD programs in cell biology, you can go into some of these databases and select cell biology or any other specific area of study, and they'll pull out schools that offer, PhDs or masters in that area. Keep in mind that I can't guarantee that all these databases will have an exhaustive list of programs. Some of them will cover universities in the world, the whole world, like PhD Portal, for example. Others may be specific to countries. And so just keep that in mind. And if you can't find what you're looking for, Google or Bing or another generic search engine can be a good start. Beware of program rankings. This is very important. But also keep in mind that the ranking of specific programs may not align with the overall ranking of the university. What do I mean here? A university, for example, like Oxford or Harvard or Caltech or Berkeley, those are highly ranked universities, often ranked number one in the whole world. That doesn't mean that every graduate program at Harvard or Berkeley or Caltech or Oxford is also the top in the world. Okay. So an example here, a school like the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, in Urbana-Champaign, Illinois, is really, really strong in civil engineering. So strong that it may rank higher than other some of these big universities. And so it may rank higher than that specific program may rank higher than the equivalent program at other universities that are generally top in the world. So that's important to keep in mind. When you're targeting a graduate program, you want to look at the ranking of that program, not the whole university. And so uh, you can apply to a university and you're like, this university wasn't highly ranked. I really don't understand why they rejected my application. Well, there could be many reasons why your application gets rejected. But sometimes you may also be targeting a really, really highly ranked program without knowing it because you're just looking at the overall university. So that's an important point to keep in mind. And we always recommend to apply to programs with a range of ranking. And so we've seen students who submitted applications to all the coast on the east coast of the United States. I mean, all the schools on the east coast of the United States and the schools on the west coast of the US. And so Berkeley, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, and then in the end, they come back to us and say, I'm not sure why I did not get any admission. Um, Everyone in the world wants to get into a program in these universities. So they are highly competitive. It's encouraged, it's good for you to take your chances and submit applications there, but also target some programs that are not, very highly ranked. There are many state universities that have excellent graduate programs. You don't have to be at a top ranked university to do good research. So where do you send your application? Who receives your application? Even in a case where you have a centralized application system, your application will most likely go to a specific graduate program within a university. So I'll give you an example here of the school where I went for grad school, which is Indiana University in Bloomington. At Indiana University, which is also sometimes referred to as IU, there is a College of Arts and Sciences. And within the College of Arts and Sciences, there is the Department of Biology. So I was in the Department of Biology. Within the Department of Biology, I applied and did my PhD in the genome, cell, and developmental biology. And so, yes, I had a PhD at Indiana University, but really I spent my time in this graduate PhD program, the genome, cell, and developmental biology. There were other programs, microbiology and ecology, evolution, ecology, and behavior. These programs are led by different people and they operate somewhat similarly, but also very differently. So, and you have to keep in mind that different programs within the same university may have different deadlines. And so what you need to be able to do when you get to the university website is to be able to navigate to the college or the school, the department, and then the specific graduate program that you want to get to. And a good start here, almost every university website is going to have the academics menu. If you go to the academics menu, that's a good start. And then look for schools or colleges, and then narrow down to the departments until you get to the area where the program that you are looking for. Okay. And so I'll give you the example of my PhD graduate program, the GCDB, or Genome, Cell, and Developmental Biology graduate program. So what do you find when you go to these websites? These are great sources of information, and I encourage you to read the program websites fully and carefully before you begin reaching out to the faculty or the program coordinator. This is important. The reason why this matters is because you get a lot of information from these websites already. You can learn about the admission requirements. This website here, this web page here is not giving you right away the admission requirements, but if you were to click here in either one of these specific programs, they will tell you what the requirements are. And they will also tell you the degree requirements, meaning what you will have to do in their program to be awarded a PhD degree. You will have the contact information. This is very important. So you will know who to reach out to. For instance, if you can't afford the application fee, that's not a question you address to the faculty. That's a question you address to the graduate coordinator or the graduate advisor or the admissions officer. You must be able to find that contact information for every program you are targeting and write that information down. Most importantly, you're going to learn about the research that's conducted in that program. And I'll come back to this research menu specifically. You also learn how to apply, right? And much, much, much more. So here, for instance, on the GCDB webpage, here they tell you how you apply to the program. Notice here also something important. They tell you about their financial support. So as most of you may know, or those who attended the last webinar definitely do know, that most programs, most PhD programs, especially in the United States and in Europe, I think now in China as well, even some in India, will waive your tuition and also pay you a monthly stipend to help you live and afford the living expenses and complete your graduate studies. So in the financial support menu, some programs will go as detailed as telling you what your specific stipend is going to be. And so they will tell you if you come in our program, for instance, you will receive a stipend of $30,000 a year. So you can calculate how much that is a month, minus all the taxes and the fees. You could actually know how much money you will receive every month. And then learn about the cost of living in that city where the school is and see if you can afford it depending on your situation, right? Some of you might be married and have families. And when you come here to start your PhD, you may need to bring your family, right? So if you come with your family, maybe a graduate student stipend may not allow you to um, afford the living in Boston or another expensive city in the United States, but maybe a smaller town would be okay for you. So it's good to have that information, and these websites are a great start. Once you've carefully went through all the information, then you can start reaching out to the people in the program. Please address research questions to the professors. Your research interests should be addressed to the professors, but questions about the logistics of the program, the application fees, those should be addressed to the graduate advisor. When you do that, you already demonstrate that you've done your homework of learning about the graduate program, which is another way of showing your interest. And so when I was in grad school, I would hear the graduate coordinator often come to me and say, oh, we're in touch with this student. He's in Nigeria or he's in Ghana, and he really seems interested in our program. Can you connect with them and help them? So the only reason why they would come to me is because you've contacted them probably multiple times with the right questions, and so they see that you've done your part, and they are eagerly trying to help you get all the information necessary for you to like their program and apply to it. And some of those students I've connected with are now PhD students in the same program or elsewhere in the United States. And so pay attention to the research menu. As a prospective graduate student, this is where you should spend most time. You need to know the research that's being conducted in a graduate program that you are interested in. And so this is why I said you want to start now, because this process is very time consuming. Um, so this menu is going to tell you about the research faculty, right? So this is the example again of my graduate PhD program. So it'll tell you who is doing research in this program. So this is a very good menu to also pay attention to. You visit, you get to know how many research faculty a program has. That will tell you how big the program is. The bigger the program means the more options you will have for the labs you can join. You will learn about the research topic of the faculty. Um, the biggest mistake you can make is to email a professor, tell them that you're interested in their lab, but refer to the wrong research topic. Tell them about a research topic that is not theirs. I can guarantee you, you will never get an answer from that professor. No matter how much you ping them, you will never get an answer. Um, and so you you can also learn about their publications. This is very important. um, as a prospective graduate student, you're trying to become a scholar. And so you want to learn what other scholars are doing that you're trying to learn from. And the best way to get that information is to read their publications. So it's very important. Read the publications. Don't just read the first paragraph on their laboratory website and assume that you know everything they do. These laboratory websites, they are great. You should visit them. Once you get there, you can learn more about the research. You can learn about who else is in that lab. You can learn about the alumni of that lab and learn about where they are. And the alumni of the lab are particularly great resources for you if you are interested in a faculty. I've gotten people who have emailed me and told me, I'm interested in the research of Dr. Sonny Lacefield, my PhD advisor. What can you tell me about it? Right. And so it's always nice to exchange with people like that, and they probably go in with first-hand information because I've worked with Sony. I know what she's working on. I know her as a mentor. I know how great she is. And so the alumni of the lab that you're interested in can also help. Um, Something that students don't know also is that you can use the alumni of the lab as your advocates. What am I saying here? Say you want to go to Sony, or you're interested in Sony's research, but Sony has been very busy and she's not responding to your emails. What you may not know is that she will most likely respond to my email because I'm her former PhD student, right? So if you've contacted me and I've really liked your case, you're a strong candidate, I feel like I can advocate for you, stand up for you, speak for you, I may reach out to Sony and say, hey, Sony, there's a student in Ghana or in Rwanda or in Ethiopia who's telling me they've been reaching out to you. I've reviewed their documents. I think you should reach out. They seem like a very strong candidate, right? If I vouch for you like that, Sony will respond to you. So use the alumni of the lab to reach to the PIs if you can't. Just make sure you're making a strong case. And we're going to get to that in a minute. So here, this graduate program websites, if you go in the research menu, you will also learn about the research facilities or research centers as in this example here. And so if you go to this menu on this website, for example, you're going to learn that Indiana University Bloomington is one of the biggest stacks of Drosophila strains in the world. And so if you want to do a PhD using the fruit fly as a model system, IU Bloomington might be a great place for you because every strain you need is gonna be upstairs. And so it's not gonna take weeks, months for you to get those flies. That's an example, but you can learn about many other wonderful facilities that the program will give you access to, like microscopy centers, electron microscopy facilities, genomics facilities, um, and any other facilities that will help you in your research. And so please spend time reading the information on these websites. Um, that will help you also make more informed decisions. Here's another example. This is a PhD in agriculture and biological engineering at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So this program ranks very high in the nation, in the United States, also in the world. Um, and even if the University of Illinois may not be ranked very high in the world, but this program is ranked very, very high. And so once you go there, for instance, you're going to learn about their research. Again, there is that research menu there. You would go to something like the directory that's going to show you the people who are doing research. It may also show you the staff who are in the department, like Heather Cramp, who is the admissions and records officer for that PhD program. And so if you have a question about um, you know, application fees, for example, or how long it's going to take you to complete your PhD, or what is it like to live in Urbana-Champaign, Heather would be a great resource for you. But if you are interested in a specific area of research in that program, then you want to go to the faculty page and find the faculty that are doing research in that area and reach out to them. But somebody like Heather in this program will be your number one go-to person. And so um, what I would advise you to do right now, if you're thinking about applying to graduate school, in the next 1 or 2 years, is to start building a master sheet. So start building like a big Google sheet or an Excel sheet on your computer and start writing down this information. What universities are you interested in? What programs at that university are you going to target? How much is the application going to cost you at each program? What is the contact person? Who is the header for that program, right? If you've emailed the faculty and they respond to you, but you don't know, you can't find the information for header, the faculty may help you with that. But people who build these websites, they know that you will be looking for that information. So most likely there's going to be a contact us link or another obvious way to reach out to the graduate office. So start making that Google sheet or spreadsheet and fill in the information as you go. Take enough time to learn about the universities and the programs. Here's another example. This is the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And this is the Vision Science Graduate Program. So again, you have the university, you have the school, and you have the program. This is very similar to what I showed you for Indiana University, except that it was the College of Arts and Sciences instead of the School of Optometry, but it's very parallel, it's very similar. So you have the UAB School of Optometry and then the Vision Science Graduate Program. So when you apply here, your application will go to this specific graduate program if that's the program you are interested in. And here again, they tell you about their faculty and their research themes, so what they are working on. They tell you about the admissions, including their admission requirements down here. Okay, so keep these things in mind. All these are great resources for you to have, and so you need to be able to know how to locate and use this information. Okay. So how do you apply nowadays? For most, if not all universities, you have to apply online, and they are going to have a well laid out, ready to go online system where you submit your application. Your applications, this is really all I can tell you here. Just make sure that you um, follow all the guidelines and the rules that they lay out in their application system. do not ask obvious questions. If the instructions have been provided to you, read them carefully. Don't go back and ask the graduate coordinator how to apply when you already have the information in the online system. So in most cases, these are systems where you can go and create an account and then you start building your application within the system. So you don't have to sit down in one day and finish the entire application. You can upload documents, write the essays that they ask you for, and then log back in later and continue to work on your application, and submit it when you are ready. Some universities may have rolling application systems, meaning you can submit your application anytime. It's probably not going to be reviewed until after the due date in most cases, although I've heard now some graduate program will begin reviewing the applications before the due date, because they are competing also for top students, so they will start reading earlier and getting their eyes on the students' applications sooner. I would say the sooner you submit, the better, but there is also no need to rush your application if it's not ready yet. You can keep your information in the online application system and submit when you feel like you are ready to. Just make sure you do it on or before the deadline. The general application requirements, typically this is going to be laid out either on the graduate program website, as I just showed you the example of the University of Alabama at Birmingham. So provide all the information that they ask. It's typically also laid out clearly in the online application system. But generally, you will need to show an official transcript. This is not your final transcript or your final diploma. Don't get this confused. You can apply to graduate school before you graduate. So if you will be graduating in May 2025, that means you can start graduate school in August 2025. So you can submit your application this year. You will submit a transcript that is not your final transcript or your diploma. That is acceptable. And so you need to have a good GPA. So for those of you who are still in your second and third years, if your GPA is below 3, please do everything you can to bring it up to 3. If your GPA is less than 3, most likely your application may not even be reviewed unless you can justify it in your statements why your GPA is low. You need to write some sort of personal statement or a statement of purpose. This is where you tell them who you are and what you want and why you think you're qualified for it. This is giving meaning to your CV, right? That's how I view these documents. You need a CV or a resume, recommendation letters, and then some sort of English proficiency record if you're coming from a non-English speaking country. So that can be, for example, your grades for the TOEFL, test of English as a foreign language, or IELTS. Most universities will accept one or the other. Make sure you read the requirements carefully to know what score they require. I would say if you fall a little bit short of the minimum they require for this test, you can always reach out to the graduate advisor, so Heather, and tell Heather that you didn't get the cutoff. If it's very close, if your score is very close and all your other material looks strong, they may give you like an interview to make sure that you can communicate well in English, and they may still admit you nonetheless. And make sure that also your countries are not on the exempt list. If your country is on the exempt list, you don't have to take these tests. You will have to pay an application fee. And I'm noticing here that I also forgot that some programs will still require the GRE. That's the graduate record exam. But most programs are waiving that test now. They're realizing that it's useless, which is a great move. But if they say the GRE is recommended, then we recommend to they may say it's not required, but optional or recommended. In that case, you may want to take the GRE because it may be the only thing that distinguishes you from other applicants in case there is a harsh competition. Keep in mind, I'm gonna go through these documents and kind of show you how to write them, but the resources page on the AFISNet website also provides tips on how to write these application documents. So once you've registered, you will have access to the resources page. So you've completed your application, you've submitted it. Who is going to read it? This is good to keep in mind. Your application will be reviewed by an admission committee. Typically, these are research professors. And one thing you have to keep in mind is that these are very, very busy professors. So they are doing research, they are teaching, they are grading, they have meetings, they have family. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of time for your application. And so, as I'll tell you in a minute, you need to bring your case and capture their attention as soon as possible, right? So also keep in mind that every program receives hundreds, sometimes thousands of applications. So you have to make yours unique and memorable. That's the only way you stand a chance. These admission committees are working on a tight schedules. In most cases, they have like 2 weeks to review all the applications and decide who to invite for an interview. Keep in mind, they do not know you, and what you write is what they know. If you have reached out to a faculty in their program, they will most likely reach out to that faculty. This is important to keep in mind, whether or not the professor you've reached out to has responded to your emails, you should still mention in your statements that you've reached out to them. When you do that, the admission committee will reach out to that professor to get their opinion about you. And if that professor likes your case and advocates for you, you will be much more likely to be invited for an interview. So as I said, you want to capture their attention very early in your essays, in your statements, for example. This is very important. So now I want to take some time to review some common application documents and also emails to potential advisors. I'll try and tell you some do's and don'ts for these documents, what you can do to make them more effective, some common errors and mistakes that we've seen over the past a few years that we've been reviewing these documents, and hopefully this will be helpful to you as you write your own documents. So let's begin with the CV. Please keep your CV simple and consistent, okay? What I mean by simple, I've seen CVs that come with 10 different colors and 20 different fonts, and so many font sizes and stuff. Don't do that. Keep it simple and keep it consistent. And so keep the titles the same. If you've used bullet points in one section, then use bullet points throughout the whole document and use the same bullet points. Don't be changing from dots to squares to circles to numbers. The simpler and consistent your CV is, the easier to read it's going to be. Please don't include your date of birth on your CV. This is not required. It's not a requirement for graduate school admission, but also, your date of birth can be considered confidential information in some cases, so it's not good to put it on a document like a CV. And then you are applying for graduate school. This is an education program, so begin with your education. I've read CVs that will start with work experience. You're not applying for a job. You're applying for an education position. So start with your education background. And then you are also applying for a graduate program that is focused on research. So after your education, put your research experience. They really don't care how many years you've been working at your local hospital or at your local IT company. They don't care. What they care about is your research experience and your education. Your education is your handshake, right? But then when you talk about your research in your CV, briefly elaborate on your research. What was the research topic? Where did you do the research? What was the lab and who supervised you, right? What were the research questions and hypotheses that you were trying to address? What main methods did you use? And what was your specific role in the project? So if you provide each one of these bullet points in one sentence, that's a 5-sentence short paragraph in your CV. That is not going to take up too much space, but it's important that you provide this information. Don't just write the topic. Don't just put the publication. Describe the project, and generally what I've provided here is a general way of describing any research project. So notice that this is already a way to convince the admission committee that you know how to describe a research project. And that's important when you're applying to a research-focused graduate school. Provide direct access to your publications, please, if you have any. You can provide the links. You can provide the DOI numbers or PubMed ID if your publications are on PubMed, or any other ID that can be found in a general publication repository. Just don't make the professors Google the title of your publications to get a link to it. If you have a PDF, make sure you attach it to the emails you send out, or if they give you any space in the online application system where you can upload more documents, make sure you upload the PDFs of your publications so they have access to them right away. So now the email to a potential graduate advisor. So as I mentioned, I don't have time to dive into specific examples. Ideally, I would have pulled out a CV and we go through it together. Didactically, that would have been better, but for the sake of time, I am not able to do that, but I'll share some websites that have that information, that have so many templates that you can look at. And again, the resources page on AfriCNet also has a lot of websites that you can visit and read many templates. And so email to the graduate advisor. This is a big one. It's very important if you're trying to get into a graduate program, make sure you are connected to the faculty in that program. What I would say here before you even send out your email, professors speak to each other, and you never know what they're going to be talking about or when they're going to talk about it. And that might be you. So if you are reaching out to multiple professors in the same graduate program, that is fine. It's totally fine. You can do that. Just make sure that the professors you're reaching out to are in a sort of similar research theme. So if you reach out to a professor who's doing research in cancer cell biology, and you then also reach out to a professor who's doing research in plant evolution. That may, if those two professors ever speak to each other, you may appear as someone who does. If you are interested in let me make sure. So I think I got muted for a second. So yeah, I was saying, so Maya, you know when I got muted? I wasn't paying attention to the mute. Someone tell me when you lost me?
Yeah, I tried to mute Gabriel is entering, but yes, just few seconds ago when you talked about, hello?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, just 1 second or two. Don't worry.
Um, okay, and Dave is doing annotations on the screen. Can you disable them and remove Dave from the meeting, please? Thank you, Sumaya. So remove Dave from the meeting. Don't come here to disturb our meetings. There's no need to waste your time like that, please. So apologies everyone for this. Let me see if I can fix it. Sumaya, I'm gonna, you see.
Yes, I'm removing Dave from the meeting.
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So apologies for this mess here. I'm not gonna waste time on it. It's not too bad. So we'll just keep moving on for the interest of time. Yeah. So if you are in engineering, right, and you email one professor who is studying, doing research on pavement, for example, right? And then you also reach out to another professor who is doing research on roofing, right? How to, or how to design roofs or windows, right? That may appear that you don't know what you are doing, right? So Maya, there might be also a way to block the annotations as a host. So if you can do that, that will help a lot. So when you do send this email, you should send this email. And again, whether or not the professors respond to you, they know you are interested in their research, and you should say that and mention their name and mention that you've reached out to them in your statements. But in your introduction, mention your name, academic degree, current position, and the institution you're in, and your country. So this is in the introduction, okay? And so an example here, and so this is straightforward. You say who you are, where you are, your degree, your country, and then state the reason for writing. This is very important. In your first paragraph of the email, the professor should know why you are reaching to them. And the reason why you're reaching out to them is what's going to make them read your email and respond to it if they do. And so, example here, you could say, I'm reaching out to let you know that I have a strong interest in your research, and I'm planning to apply to the industrial engineering graduate program at Oklahoma State University, right? And so, yeah, I'll be like, oh, the student is interested in my research. So who are they? Are they qualified? How good are they, right? Those are the questions in my mind, but I want to read more after this paragraph, right? And then communicate your qualifications already in that first paragraph. You can add one or two sentences that generally broadly describe your qualifications as a prospective graduate student. So you could say things like, I have taken major undergraduate courses in engineering, and I have more than 10 months of research experience in industrial engineering research laboratory, right? So I already know you've taken courses in the area, but most importantly, you have research experience, right? So as a professor who is looking for students, I'm interested in you. I want to learn more about you. So this is your first paragraph. This is your introduction paragraph, right? And then end the intro with some hook message to get the interest, right? So I've given you an example here. In this email, I present my research interest and experiences, which I believe align with the research direction of your laboratory, right? My research experience convinces me that I would offer a significant contribution to the research in your laboratory, and I hope that you will consider me as a graduate student in your lab if you will be taking students in the 2023-2024 academic year, or 2024-2025 academic year. So in this year, you would be writing 2024-2025 academic year, right? So here, you've already hooked them by telling them that you have research experience. And notice how I write this paragraph. I'm saying my experiences convince me that I'm suited for your lab. I'm not saying I believe I would be the best candidate for your lab. Most likely you are not. You're not the best. There are other people. You might be the best for sure, but there are other people who are as good as you. So don't assume you're the best, but if you are good, you can say it. And say it by saying why. I didn't just come and say, I believe I'm an awesome candidate for your lab. I said my research experience makes me a suited candidate for your laboratory. Um, and so speak with evidence, speak professionally, do not speak in a grandiose language. That tends to turn people off very quickly. Okay. So it looks like this annotation is going to stay there. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to stop sharing and come back in again. Apologies. So Maya, did you figure out any way you can stop the annotations? Or if anyone else knows how to do it, you can share that information with us in the chat. If not, we'll figure it out for the next meetings. Apologies. Okay, now it's gone. Everyone, can you see my slides? Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone let me know if you can see my slides, please.
Yes, Gabriel. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So we just talked about the introduction on the previous slide. So now I'm going to talk about the main body of your email. So notice that this is not a one paragraph email, right? It shouldn't also be a 5-paragraph email, but you want to write an email that is going to show that you are interested and you've done your due diligence, right? And so, your first body paragraph could be your academic background, right? So list the major courses you've taken, focus on practical exercises, capstone project, course-related extracurricular activities that show that you've participated in activities that have intellectually challenged you to think critically about the theoretical knowledge that you've learned in your classes. And you want to explain how these courses have inspired your research interest, right? And so, for example, after taking upper level courses in cell biology, my curiosity into how the cell is organized and functions grew deeper, and I decided to engage in a research project in a cell biology laboratory to learn more. You can be more precise than this. You can be more even narrow further down than this by saying, for instance, I'm fascinated by mitochondria as organelles, and because of this reason, and I would like to be engaged in more research on mitochondria function, right? As an example. And then the other paragraph should cover your research experience if you have any. List the projects that you have participated in. And please remember to include the research topic, the lab, and so who supervised you, the research questions, hypothesis, the main methods you used. This is very important. And don't get too technical here. Keep in mind that it's not impressive that you can run a PCR. It's not impressive that you can do surveying as a civil engineer. Everyone can learn how to do that. But it's important to mention it because if a professor is doing research and they are using methods that are similar to the methods that you've used in your own research, that informs them that perhaps if you join their lab, you will be ready to start and learn faster than somebody who's never used the same methods, for example. And so here, importantly, something maybe that you wouldn't add in your CV. You want to talk about the impact the project has had on your general research interest, and also the decision to pursue graduate school. So this could be that as an undergraduate student taking courses, you will only taking in the information sort of had a more limited understanding of the knowledge gaps that exist in your research field, but the research project opened your mind to more open questions, and you would like to be part of the effort that's going to try to answer those questions, for example. And so if you have publications, provide their direct links in this email. And if you have PDFs, please attach the PDFs of your publications if you're emailing your faculty. Another paragraph that you shouldn't leave out, and this can be your final paragraph. You could talk about this in your final paragraph, but make sure to show the professor that you've read about their research. Again, not just the first paragraph of their research website, that you've read their publications. And so you want to show them that you understand the general direction of the research in their laboratory, and the specific areas in their laboratory that interest you. And so show that your research interests align with what they are doing. And so is there any similarity between what you've done, between your experience and what the lab is working on? The similarity doesn't have to be close 100%. And so, for instance, I believe it was someone asked a really good question at the last meeting. I think they have a master's so they have a bachelor degree in statistics, and now they are doing research in a master's in genomics, and they want to get into cancer biology for a PhD. And I believe the student was worried that there may not be an overlap between the two. And so my answer to the student was, well, your link is cancer genomics, right? There is genomics in cancer research. So that's your link. That's the overlap. That's what you want to use to convince the professors, right? In fact, most professors will like students like those, students who come with expertise in a related but sort of separate area, because they're going to have some added value to the research in the laboratory. So always find that nexus, find that link, find that overlap. And then, the general impact of the research and the stated contribution interest. So I gave an example here. I believe that the research in your laboratory is to unravel novel mechanisms of cancer metastasis in the lung, and I'll be my honor to contribute, right? But notice here, I'm very specific, right? So I know that this lab is working on cancer. I know that this lab studies metastasis, and I know that this lab studies metastasis into the lung, right? And so there's no way you will be this precise if you've not read about the research going on in the lab. Now, if the research happens to be something else than this, then you've really killed your case, right? In the conclusion, thank the advisor for the time and consideration. Thank them for reading your email. And then request a Zoom meeting or a chance for continued discussion on for your interest and research projects in the lab, right? And so this is very important. So you could, for example, here say, I would appreciate a chance for further discussion, for instance, via a Zoom chat where I can explore more projects that are available in your laboratory and discuss ways that I could contribute as a graduate student, for example, if I were admitted to your graduate program. Okay, but thank them and put in that outlook and state what you want from as a follow-up after this email. And so the statement of purpose, this is a big one. I here say statement of purpose, personal statement. I know they are different, but they are also very similar, that for the sake of this presentation, I'm just gonna talk about them together. And then if you have any questions of like how different are they, we can cover that. But the major difference here is that these documents will both say who you are as a prospective student, how you are qualified and why you are qualified. The statement of purpose is going to deal more with your future interests, your future research interests, whereas the personal statement necessarily doesn't. do that. It could present who you are and what you want without delving too much into your future interests. But the main goal of this document is to convince. So that first sentence, the first verb of that bullet point is very important. You are making a case, as I put on the flyer, that you're making a case. You are convincing people. You are not informing them. You are convincing them. Of course, you will convince them by giving them the information about you and what you've done. But if you just provide the information without convincing, without giving meaning to that information, then most likely you're not going to convince them. So you want to show them that you are a good fit and that you are qualified for their program, right? And so hook them right in the beginning, be unique, and here avoid cliches, right? Nowadays, everyone wants to get into research, biomedical research, because many people die in Africa from malaria, or their grandma died of cancer. It's okay to say that, but to me, it's just a lot of people say that, and I've heard some professors say this doesn't talk to me anymore. It's just everyone. Is there a better reason? I want to see people who are motivated intellectually to do research, not people who are sad because their parents died of a disease, right? It's of course a noble reason to want to do research to understand more about the disease if that's your connection. But if you can find reasons that are more intellectual, right? And so maybe it was your very first field exercise or field course in your engineering course, right? Maybe it was your first program that you wrote in your C++ or MATLAB course in your computer science undergrad, right? Or maybe it was your first animal dissection in your biology laboratory, right? So find something intellectual if you can. The key here, unique doesn't mean splendid. It doesn't mean that you have to be the top in the world. It simply means that you're saying something that not everyone is going to say. And how you do this is that you appeal to the senses. You appeal to, where did you do that? How did you do it? How did you feel when you were doing it? And so, for example, you could say, I was awestruck when I looked at the polygonal shapes of plant cells the first time I used a light microscope. In my laboratory, it was in a small room with dim light, and we had to point the microscope to the sun to be able to direct the light through the objective, right? How many students in Nigeria will say that? How many students in Rwanda will say that, right? So very simple, very unique. I'm not saying that I've changed the world, because I haven't, but I'm giving my story and I'm telling it in a way that's memorable, right? And so here, avoid generic and hyperbole. This is going to kill you, right? And I've given you examples here. I'm interested in pursuing a PhD in civil engineering because growing as a child, I have noticed how Africa lacks basic infrastructure. You're not telling this professor anything they don't know. That's the problem here. They know that the infrastructure in the United States and Europe are much more developed than the infrastructure in Africa. There is no need to tell them that again. They can guess that the road that passes in front of your home may not be asphalted. So you don't have to tell them that, right? And an example here of a hyperbole language might be, my goal is to become a world-renowned researcher and start a research institute in my home country to fight climate change. I kid you not, I've read sentences like these in student statements. I have. This is an example from a statement I proofread, and I just paraphrased it here so the student wouldn't know I'm talking about them. But your goal is not to become renowned. Your goal is not to become famous. As a researcher, Your goal is to make discovery to help society. That's your goal. If you wrote a sentence like that in your statement, I will remember you. If you come to me and say that you want to start a research institute before you even have a PhD, I don't want to talk to you. You don't know what you want. You don't know what a PhD is about. I'm not gonna read your documents. I'll tell you what happens here. Your application goes in the trash, as simple as that. Because there's 1,000 other applications of candidates who are well prepared, who know what they want, and they've written their documents very well. The key here is that you show, not tell. I'll repeat that. The goal is to show, not to tell. So you're showing your experiences and skills to illustrate your achievements and interest and qualifications. And the way you do this is that you use very specific, very concrete, and quantified examples. And so, where did you do the research? Who supervised you? Again, how long were you in that research project? How many research projects have you participated in? Okay, so trackable, quantifiable. These people don't know, may not know Ghana, they may not know Nigeria, they may not know Rwanda, they may not know Ethiopia, they may not know Congo, wherever you're joining us from. They don't know. They don't know your supervisors, but putting a name to the project of a supervisor gives it more context. And so that's going to be more sensible to the person who is reading your applications. Um, so very importantly here, adhere to the formatting guidelines, okay? If they've told you that your document should be 1 page, keep it to 1 page, please. Because in some cases, you write the statement in the system. In other cases, they may let you upload a document. So you could write more pages than they've asked for in the guidelines. Do not do that. Stick to the guidelines. And so here I'm gonna refer you to the MIT Communication Lab annotated example. And I'm gonna give you this website when we at the end of the presentation. Some of the examples on this website are some of the best examples of statements I've ever read. So I recommend to go and read those examples there. So now let's get into the document. What goes in your introduction? What goes in the main body of the document? What goes in the conclusion? Again, state who you are briefly, right? I'm Daphne Akwa. I'm a senior undergraduate student at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana, right? Now I know there is a university in Ghana called Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology that I didn't know about. That's new, that's unique. I want to read more, right? Maybe I've never heard of the name Akwa before, right? You think these are simple things. So this is how the human brains work. We're always attracted to things we don't know, things we've not known about before. And so your first statement should not be should not delve right into the research right away before you even tell people who you are. Even if you have your CV submitted and everything, it's good to state who you are in the beginning, to kind of shake hand with the person reading your document, because you don't know which document they are going to read first. So state your interest and your major qualifications. Again, this is important. If you're sending me an email, tell me why you are sending me the email. And so example here, my research interest is in understanding the reproductive biology of vector mosquitoes, right? Why are you qualified for that? Yes, I have more than 12 months, quantifiable here. I'm not just saying I have research experience from various laboratories in Kenya investigating the life cycle of mosquitoes that transmit malaria, dengue fever, and chikungunya, right? I've quantified it here. It's 12 months. In fact, I should say I shouldn't have probably here written various. I should have put a specific number. I should have said I've worked for 12 months in 4 different laboratories in Kenya investigating the life cycle, blah, 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 right? So if you can quantify, if you can put a number on something, put the number. And then say what you want, right? So you've said your interest, you've said your qualifications, but what do you want, right? Why are you writing to me? again, my academic interest, my experience have compelled me. It doesn't drop out of nowhere, right? I want to conduct my thesis research in your department because my research experience and academic background have convinced me that I would be a good fit for your department, right? And so I would be greatly honored to conduct my thesis research with the outstanding researchers in the forensic department at the University of Lyon, if you want to go to France. And so here I give an example. Notice um, how complete this statement is, but also it's humble. I'm saying what I want. I'm claiming that I want to pursue a PhD, and I'm saying I have experience to do that. But I'm also saying I'll be greatly honored to join your department, right? I'm not coming saying I'm gonna be the best student you've ever seen. Most likely you will not be. So in the main body, this is again just there's pairs to the email here. You want to provide your academic background, but here now you can elaborate, right? In the email, you don't have to list all the courses and what you did in those courses. Here you have space to provide some examples, right? And so here, uh, my desire to pursue research was sparked during my practical exercises of the general surveying course as we explored how traffic load affects the road pavement lifetime in a local region in Accra. I became even more interested in understanding pavement design and maintenance and maybe how that works in other countries, right? So how many applicants will apply to this program and say that they've explored how traffic affects pavement in Accra, right? Not many. So that's gonna be unique, right? Um, and maybe here you could say how long you did for how long you were doing this and how long you did that surveying to again bring in the quantification aspect, right? And then talk about your research experience. Again, what's the topic? Who supervised you? Where did you do the research? What institution? Um, and what was the research question? This is very important. What methods did you use? What role did you play? What impact did that project have on your interest and the decision to pursue graduate school? Here you could also say the impact on the research area, and then you can also here don't forget to mention that you have publications and you can provide access to them again here by pasting a link or a DOI or another a digital identifier that will help them get to your publications. Again, make their job as easy as possible. Once you've listed what you want, your qualifications, now it's time to justify how your qualifications make you a good fit for their program. Okay. Again, not the best. Good is enough. Um, so here you can list a few professors, for example, whose research interests align with yours, right? The fact that they are research professors in a department who are doing research that's similar to your research interest, and you've already shown that you've done research in that area, is one way to show that you would fit in that department, right? So you have to understand the research again that the professors are doing, but do not reiterate the research statements on their laboratory websites. Please, please, please do not do this. I've seen students who copy and paste the research statements from laboratory websites, and I can guarantee you if you do that, your application will go in the trash for two reasons. It's disrespectful and lazy. Number two, and most importantly, it's plagiarism. And plagiarism is an academic misconduct. And so they don't want you to be they don't want you to be involved in plagiarism. I'm assuming that here everyone knows what plagiarism is, but if you don't, plagiarism is when you acclaim statements or findings as yours when they are not. And so you use them without giving due credit to the people who made the discovery or made the statements before you. Um, And so you can't just copy and paste someone else's statements into your documents without giving them credit. And the best way to go around this, instead of using a direct quote, I would paraphrase the research statement. And so if you've read their publications, mention it. You can refer to the publication, but again, remember they know that publication more than you, so you don't have to recite it for them. You could just simply say, for instance, the recent publication that came out in this journal caught my personal interest because I was able to see firsthand the expertise in the lab and how well the research tackled a very important question in this research area. And I believe the impact of that research could be that ABCD, right? A good way to describe publications, I always tell students, read the discussion part of the publications. That's going to tell you what the PIs are thinking about the impact of their work and the research, the knowledge gaps that they've covered. You can then also begin your discussion and your statements from that point of view. And it's okay to tell them things they've said in their publications. Just make sure you're not copying and pasting their own words. um, so that's what I just said. Give a few examples of their research outputs that have particularly captured your interest. Did you see them give a talk at a conference? Did you read their publications? And focus on how your interests align with their professor's research, right? And again, here, a lot of students feel that they will be qualified because they've done PCR, they've done gel electrophoresis, they know how to code. I mean, knowing how to code is not impressive. It's not going to impress anybody. Anybody now can go on Coursera or anywhere and learn Python and learn MATLAB. That you should mention that you have that experience. Absolutely. Don't leave that out. But what matters is what you've done with that experience, and most importantly, what you hope to use that experience for in grad school and how that's going to make you a better graduate student. Um, so don't just list your skills, give meaning to them, because everyone else, there's so many people who have similar skills. Um, so here, explain your contribution, right? Again, show specific skills and techniques that you learned from your research experience and extracurricular activities. And so critical thinking, teamwork, troubleshooting, note taking, time management, research presentation, giving and accepting criticism, manuscript preparation, and so on and so forth. And so in your conclusion, state your reasonable long-term academic and professional goals, which are aligned with your graduate school studies. This is important. Graduate programs want to see that if you join their program, they will have an impact on your career. They will help you attain your career goals because that's how, as an institution, that's how a university justifies its role in the society. So universities boast about their alumni, right? If their alumni gets a Nobel Prize, they want to talk about that in the news everywhere, right? And so because they feel like they've contributed to that, that's the reason. And so more people will join their programs. So show them that they will help you attain your goals. Just make sure that the goals you state are reasonable. Like I said, there's no need as a prospective graduate student to mention that you want to build a research institute in your home country, right? It's going to take you probably 10 to 20 years after your PhD before you can do that. There's no need to bring that now. That's not what they want, right? What are you going to do after your PhD? That's what they want to know now. Do you want to go to industry in private research and participate in drug discovery, or do you want to be part of the team that's going to design better space shuttles in the next 10 years for space exploration? Uh, you know, Immediate, reasonable, long-term reasonable goals, not, I want to be a research professor at an academic institution and teach and do research to contribute to the future generation of researchers. That's a reasonable goal, right? And then explain how the graduate program will help you attain that goal, as I just mentioned, and then thank the reviewing committee for their time and consideration, right? So it's always important to remember that. So if your application looks good and you get a chance to be offered an interview, this is a big deal. Keep that in mind. In most cases, when you are invited for an interview, the program is ready to take you unless you make a major faux pas during the interview. So in some places I've interviewed, they've told me, basically this is yours to lose, right? And as programs become more and more competitive, that may not be the case. And I'm seeing more programs now putting many people on the waiting lists. But typically, when you get to the interview stage, you are good. And so, what you want to do before the interview is to prepare and familiarize yourself with the technology. Please don't learn how to use Zoom. If you are here, you probably know how to use Zoom. But don't try to prepare your technology 10 minutes before the interview. Make sure you're prepared ahead of time. Make sure you have enough light in the room where you're gonna do the interview. Because you are in Africa, most likely if you are in Africa, your interview is going to be virtual, right? So test your Zoom. Do a mock with a friend. Ask them if the light looks okay. Ask them if the clothes you're planning to wear look good. They're not distractive or too bright or too dark, right? And there are tips there on internet on how to look good on Zoom, or virtual meetings or virtual interviews. So you should watch a few YouTube videos about that before your interview if you get one. And also review your written documents again, because you submit these documents in November or October or December, and the interview is not until February. You may have forgotten some details about the labs that you're interested in, about your experiences and stuff. So review the documents to make sure that you have the information at hand if they want to discuss it. Know who you will be speaking with. In most cases, they will tell you, and then be ready to engage, ask questions, and most importantly, just relax, be you. It's a conversation, and there's nothing else you can do. It's a conversation. Just sit back, relax, have a good time, be you. Don't try to be impressive or anything. Just do your homework, have your stuff, have your information, and come and have a nice conversation. If you are selected for the AfriSnet graduate mentorship, our mentors will be willing to give you a mock interview if you need one. I've given mock interviews to some students, and I think that helped. And so that's it for today. Want to have a little bit of time for questions, but for the next presentation, which note here that it's going to be on a Wednesday, not a Saturday. So keep that in mind. It's on June 12th. So let me quickly make sure I didn't mess the calendar up. Yes, so June 12th is on a Wednesday at the same time, 2 p.m. GMT. So what I'm going to do here, as I said, AfriSnet provides mentorship to African students who are applying to graduate school. And again, our focus is Africa. Most of us are Africans. We do get mentors who are not Africans, which is exciting to see that many people are willing to help. But we recruit people who are qualified to mentor you. So we recruit people who have at least at 1 degree above yours. Some will be postdocs, like me. Others will be PhD students who are in the United States, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia. And these people volunteer their time to guide you through the process. So they'll be there as your companion. You can also ask them questions. They'll proofread your documents. They'll help you prepare for the interview, and just be there with you along the journey. So on Wednesday, on June 12th, I'm going to give you more description about this program, the requirements for the program, so what you need to have and do for you to be qualified as a mentee, and also I'll share some examples from our past mentorship sessions series to kind of show you why important this is. All the students we've mentored vow that the program helped them, and I know some cases where I could say maybe if we had not helped that student, I'm not sure if they would have made it to the interview stage. And so if you have already applied to GRAM, like if you applied last year, we will reach out to you if you are qualified and when it's time for the orientation. I should say one major criteria to be considered for the GRAM is that you must have at least a cutoff GPA of 3.0 and above. So we ask that you provide your GPA in a way that makes sense to us, and I'm gonna cover those details at the next meeting. So right now I wanna start sharing and take a few questions. And again, if we run out of time or anything, I'm going to put my email in the chat. So reach out if you feel like I didn't answer your question properly, or you have more questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to me anytime. But now I will take a few questions. I think we have a Q&A open enabled. You can also raise your hand, and Sumaya can help us moderate that, and we'll try and answer questions to the best knowledge that we can. I see Felix has his hand up. Go ahead, Felix. You can unmute yourself.
From Ghana. My name is Felix. Last time I'm hoping to apply for your master's in microbiology in Spain. I want to thank you very, very, very much for the space I've been following that.
Felix, I'm sorry, but I can't hear you well. Either your environment is loud or your sound is not coming through properly. It looks like you're using your phone. You may want to maybe get closer to the microphone of your device.
All right, so is it better?
Try again.
So I'm saying that sometimes when you check the web page of some of this, or some of the requirements for some of these programs, you realize they are requiring for English proficiency. And I want to find out, sometimes they do not take if your country qualifies or your country is eligible. I want to find out if you can request information about that, because you realize that.
I'm sorry, Felix. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Your voice is coming out in a way that's not helping me hear you. If you don't mind, put your question in the Q&A or in the chat, please, and then we'll try to answer it. So there's a question in the chat. How do you apply for a PhD directly as an undergrad in the US? So Norty, you're in the US? I assume. I mean, it's the same process, and it's also important to keep in mind that you don't need a master's to apply for PhDs in the United States. So Honori is in Ghana. Okay. So I'm not sure if you're asking how you apply to the undergraduate in the US, that's a completely different process. But the way I'm going to interpret this is that you are an undergraduate in Ghana and you're asking how you apply to a PhD in the US. It's the same process, what I just talked about in this presentation. You just describe your experiences, and I would recommend that you have some research experience because that's very important for you to be a competent applicant. But it's not that, people with master's programs and people with undergraduate degrees apply differently. It's all the same application. And I think Joanne had raised her hand first. Joanne, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Thank you very much. I had
you're welcome.
you. Please, I want to ask, applying for grad school in US, if you have a perfect CGPA, you don't have issues with that. And the problem you're having is the research part. More like
Sorry, if you have what?
I said if you have a perfect CGPA.
Uh-huh.
Yes. The only issue you're having is the research part because the research experience you have is just your thesis in school for your undergrad and your master's, and you're applying for a PhD. It's kind of like difficult getting professors to like respond to your code mails. I don't know how. Yes, I don't know how I can make my my personal statement or my code mails better to even get response or to get to proceed with the admission process.
Yeah. What I've seen, so I'm gonna give you 3 short answers. The first one is whether the professor responds or not, mention their name in the CV. Mention that you're interested in their research and you've reached out to them. Because the admission committee is going to ask them, the student says that they've reached out to you, what are your thoughts about them? Even if they've not responded to their emails, if a fellow professor reaches out to them, they will read the emails and give their opinion about you. That's one. Number 2, if you don't have any research experience and you have no way to get more research experience, what these people are looking for is initiative. And so, what else have you done beyond what was required of you as an undergraduate student? What else have you done to pursue that interest of yours that is really burning in you? So, did you take another course somewhere else, like an biology course, for example? There is a lot of courses on YouTube that a lot of professors at these big universities like MIT have now made their lectures publicly available, so they record them and everyone can watch them. Have you done that? How many lectures have you watched, right? Have you taken any courses in this general course, like, on Coursera or anything like that? Have you watched videos? What else have you done, right? And then the third one, probably the most effective, if you can, find a professor who does research at your university and beg them if they would let you even just shadow them, see what they are doing and how they are doing it. If they would let you touch any instruments in that lab, if they would let you in any way be part of a research project in their lab, assist their PhD student, assist their master's student, some way of getting into a lab on your own initiative beyond what's required of you as a student is going to help a lot. If none of that is possible, then you have to describe your thesis project in a way that is convincing when you submit the applications. And so that's where the mentorship guidance can come in and help you. I know students who have gotten admissions without any research experience other than their thesis, but again, more students are applying, so the process is getting a little more competitive. But you want to do the best to describe your research based on the some of the guidelines, for instance, that I've shared with you earlier. So does that make sense, Joan? Does that help?
Yes, thank you. Please, I want to ask something else about another
Um,
thing. You were
very quick.
mentioning the graduate internship program, and you're talking about those that have registered already. Does it mean that people cannot register again for it?
The AfriSnet graduate and postdoc community,
Yes.
it's open. It's not, you can register to it. If you finished your undergraduate degree, you can register to join
Yes.
the AGPC. And I can let me quickly find out the link and put it in the chat. Just please make sure you've completed your undergraduate. If you have not, you will probably not, you can register on our website and you will be notified of other programs that are specific to undergrads. But let me put the link to register to the AGPC. It's a very simple Google form, so it should be very easy. There we go, AGPC registration, and paste. Okay, so it's in the chat now. If you've got, if you've, you're welcome. So we also have a WhatsApp group that you can join once you register for the AGPC. You can join that WhatsApp group. That's where most conversations take place, and that's going to be helpful as well. So
It will attached to the form, the WhatsApp link.
You know what? We're gonna put the WhatsApp link on the form. I don't think it's there now, or unless the committee has added it, but I'll double check on that. I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, no
If
problem.
not, if not, shoot me email me. I put my email in the chat. Email me your number. I can also directly add you if you send me your WhatsApp number. Sure, sure. So I'll take one more from the chat. You're welcome, Joan. Yeah, so John, yes, your undergraduate thesis can count as a research experience. Again, it matters a lot how you describe it, but it is research experience. Yeah. So if your thesis is not related to what you want to do in graduate school, then you must find a way to build the gap. You must, I mean, to build a bridge, right? It has to make sense somehow. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. And again, because there are many other applicants who are much more fitting and much more qualified. So it is a competition. Olunti, I see your hand up.
Yeah, good day, sir.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, my question is, how do you register for the grant?
So yeah, because you've attended the GIS, at the end, we're going to send you the link to register for grant.
Okay, I'll shoot you an email.
Yeah, and the email will be sent out to the entire AfriSnet network, so you will not miss it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna have the information for that also at the last webinar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And will we get this PowerPoint? Yeah, I guess I can share the slides. That's okay. But also keep in mind that that this meeting is recorded. So the recording will be on YouTube, and I sometimes give examples that are not necessarily on the slides, or I give more context to what's on the slide. So my slides are not made verbatim, and that's why I recommend the recording. But yeah, I can email out the slides as well. That's not a problem. Or if you need them, just shoot me an email and I'll send them to you. Did I miss? So you mentioned that alumni of the lab could be an advocate. How do I get to know them and where they have not listed on the professor's profile? So the best way to find the alumni of a lab is to visit the laboratory website. And the best way to visit the laboratory, to get to the laboratory website is to get to the professor's profile. And you can find the professor's profile typically through the research menu of the graduate program website or through the academics menu of the university website. Universities use different names and words for these, but if you navigate a few of them, you will become familiar with the language. And some professors are also on other social platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn, where you might be able to connect and message them there and ask for their lab website. I would say if you contact a professor on Twitter or LinkedIn on the social media, don't make your message too long. Don't delve too much into the research there. Just say you're interested in their research, you would like to learn more, but you can't find the laboratory website to read more about it. But make sure that that website is not easily accessible somewhere else, because otherwise, again, it's going to show that you haven't done your homework. Yeah, so in most cases, if you've gotten to the laboratory website, you will get to the alumni, and I think Sumaya also answered that, nailed it down pretty well. Can you send a copy of your manuscript you submitted for application to PI as substitutes for your articles? I mean, it depends. It's your manuscript. I guess you can send it, but it depends on where the manuscript is in the process. If it's at a stage where maybe the journal tells you not to share it or to do it, then you may not do it. But I don't see why you can't share a manuscript. And nowadays, there is also the preprints where you can post your publication on this online, your manuscript to online servers like bioRxiv or ChemArchive and similar before you submit it for publication, and then you can share that link as well. But yeah, I think it would be totally fine to share your manuscript. Just make sure that the supervisor, the person who supervised you in that publication, agrees with you to do that before you send it out, because it's not published yet, right? Is it okay to mention in your SOP that you have no research experience? It's okay, but there is no need to mention it. Instead of saying that I have no research experience, I would simply mention other experiences and skills that I have that I think will make me a better fit, right? You don't have to dwell on things you don't have. You can dwell on things you have. That would be my advice there. What you don't have, let them do the job of figuring that out. Your job is to tell them that, to show them how you are qualified. And so use all these skills and experiences you have to show them that you're qualified and you're a good fit. You don't have to tell them that you don't have research experience. Is it okay to mention? So I think that's the same question. Okay. Where can I find the program's ranking, and how do I know what is a good ranking for? Yeah, that's a good question. So the databases that I shared, like even if you go in Google and say global university ranking in civil engineering, you're gonna find some websites that are going to give you the rankings. A good example that's coming to my mind right now is I think usnews.com does a lot of university and program rankings. Topuniversities.com as well does that. And again, all these are examples that I've provided in this presentation. So once you have the recording, you should be able to find them out. But it's usnews.com in one word, and then topuniversities.com also in one word. That will give you the rankings. So yeah, so university websites may also sometimes put the rankings of their programs. The program here is they'll put it only if it's good. So if their programs are ranked pretty high, they will brag about it. But if they're not ranked too high, they're not going to talk about it. So, and as we said, it's good to target programs that in a wide range of rankings. So you may want to use a third party that ranks universities instead of the university websites directly. But sometimes they will also tell you, especially if their ranking is good. I'm a final year undergraduate student. Can I apply to be part of the association? Suleiman, well, what I would tell you, register at AfriSnet using the Join AfriSnet menu. When the AGPC has an event, you're going to learn about it. And some of them are open to everyone. So even if you are not part of the AGPC, but typically we limit the AGPC membership to people who have at least an undergraduate degree. And excuse me. And the reason why we do that is because the things we discuss in the AGPC are really tailored towards those people. But some of our events might have bits of information that are relevant to you. So register on our website. Then we'll have your email address and you'll be informed about our events. But then you can join the AGPC next year once you graduate. Excuse me. Okay. Yes, if you have internships, definitely mention them. Rosalind, that's very important. Excuse me. Whether it's research or not, you might have learned other skills like communication skills, management skills, time management skills that are going to be important. Plus, also, an internship is an extracurricular activity, so that shows initiative, especially if that internship is anyhow related to your research interest. You should definitely mention it. Pega, is it compulsory to write English language? That whether or not you need the English proficiency proof, I recommend that you go to the program website or contact the graduate program advisor. So like Heather, the example that I gave you earlier. I don't want to give you a misleading answer. If they don't mention your country as exempt, you can always say, I've done my undergrad and master's program in English. Am I still required to take the test? And in that case, that this is a great question to send to that graduate coordinator. Sometimes they will make it specific that if your country is not listed, but your master's and undergraduate were taught in English, you may not need the test, but they may request a letter from like your registrar's office or another competent office at your university to confirm that your education was in English. Okay. So I see most questions in the chat. I don't see any questions in the Q&A unless if I've missed some. Can I use preprint only for my research paper in my CV? Yeah, that's That's fine. You can put preprints in your CV. Again, you can use anything that pulls together the work you've done, a research project, and shows the question, the hypothesis, the methods, the impact, and your discussions, what you think about the work. You should share that. So Emmanuel, you have a good GPA, but you have somehow a not so good grade in one course. If that course is highly, so if you, for example, have um, a really bad course, bad score in cell biology, and you want to do a PhD in cell biology, yeah, that can stink a little bit once they look at your transcript. So if that's the case, make sure you provide a justification. Don't give excuses, just justify why you may have not gotten the grade you needed. Maybe it was offered earlier and you were still adjusting to the academic system, but most importantly, show other things that show that you're interested and have knowledge about cell biology. So maybe you've taken another course beyond your curricular course that has taught you more about cell biology that maybe you don't have a GPA for, but for it, but it's a course that's out there that everyone knows about. Um, um, Okay, so yeah, yes, Rosalind, it's AfrisNet, not AfrisNet. Um, do you address what's the SOP? So I mean, I think if you follow the discussion as I gave it, you would probably have an idea of what an SOP is now. Emmanuel, if I'm not getting your question, then go ahead and shoot me an email, and I'll try and answer in more details. It's getting to the end of our time. Olorunti Lahin, I don't know if you still have another question. I still see your hand up, but if I've missed any question, I apologize. So go ahead, Patricia, real quick. We're getting towards the end of the time.
Hi, Patricia here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's been wonderful.
You're
My
welcome.
question is, so I have a background in petroleum engineering. My undergrad thesis was in uh, natural gas leakages in pipelines, but now going into graduate school, I want to venture into cementing engineering. And with the SOP writing, thinking about the research or thesis side, I don't know how I'm gonna put the research. Talking about tailoring your research background to a specific professor. So,
Could you repeat the area you want to get into for your PhD, please?
a master's program in cementing engineering.
Cement?
Cementing, yes, engineering.
Okay. So you want to try and find, are there any courses you've taken, for instance, as part of your petroleum engineering program that are relevant to cement engineering, for example, right? That's what I would be thinking about. And again, there might be other skills that are not directly researched, other soft skills that you've learned being part of that program that will help you succeed in the cementing engineering program. So the larger the gap, the harder it is to establish the connection. That's obvious. But what I would recommend is you want to try and find the link as much as you can. I can't provide a specific answer without knowing exactly the courses you've taken and all that and any research experience you have. I would have to see that in detail to give you a more specific answer, but the point is that you want to try and find anything you've done in your previous programs that could help in the program that you want to get into. I want to apologize. I think I wrote my email wrong. And so some people are not able to get to me. So it's Gabriel Gihana at Afrisnet, not Afirisnet. So I typed that wrong. Let me double check that now. Okay, so I just put it in the chat now and it's corrected. Let me know if you're still having problems, but that should work. So Patricia, hopefully that helped. But I would have to look at your documents to provide a more specific answer. A personal request, please. Can you suggest science educational platform that offer courses? Oops, sorry, Rosalind. I will stop reading. That was a direct message to me. Okay, so sorry, somebody sent me a personal direct message. So I'm gonna try to respond them directly, but try G and YouTube. Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here. Again, it was a great pleasure. We more than 140 people joined us today. So again, I'm always happy to see as many African students get more interest in research and try to make all efforts possible to be able to get into graduate school. I want to thank you all for using your names in Zoom today. That's very helpful. I'm gonna ask everyone else. You're welcome, Anita, who has any questions, to please shoot me an email, reach out if you want me to maybe take a quick look at your specific case. If I get many inquiries, it may take me a little bit of time to get back to you, but I'll do my best to respond to you as soon as I can. But again, it was a great pleasure. It was good to see some familiar names and see some new people today. Again, I'll see you again on Wednesday, June 12th at 2 p.m. GMT, and we're going to talk about the AfriSnet Grant program, and we will be sending out reminders for that.